There was a man observing some flock of elephants walking in the road, just tied up with a small rope. The man was amused, and the man asked the trainer, "See, it's just a small rope, and the elephants are walking inside. Will they just break it off and go away?" The man said, "No, sir. These elephants were bought when they were young babies, and they were conditioned to use this. And now, still, they are conditioned, and they will not break it because they don't know that they can break that rope." We human beings are also like that. Sometimes we are conditioned to our limiting beliefs, and we stay in that limiting beliefs. And what we do, we are afraid to come out of our comfort zone. So don't let one mistake in your past to rule out your future. Come out of your comfort zone. Embrace the changes in your life. Just upgrade your life 1% and come up in your life. So I hope this story has made sense for everyone. Let's begin today's 16th chapter, a wonderful chapter. Because whenever we open a book, some chapters will be like not so promising for us. We'll get bored with that. But Empowerment Talks English chapter, as we are on the 16th one, each chapter is so beautiful, so fruitful, and so productive to each one of us. We come up with two speakers on every Saturday, UAE time, 5 p.m. And today also we are there as we promised. So let me welcome Mr. Anil Thomas to welcome our honorable speakers for today. Anil sir, over to you.
Thank you, Shamida. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have two magnificent people joining from Middle East for a change. Kav Ranj is joining us from Bahrain. Kav Ranj is a poet and educator born and raised in Dubai. Presently lives in Bahrain. She published her first set of poems at the age of 16. Since then, she has won a runner-up prize in the Dubai Wingward Prize 2017, which led to a publication of their anthology Wi-Fi for Breakfast. Let me tell you a little history about the Wingward Poetry Prize. It's founded in 2016. It aims to encourage people to make writing a habit in their everyday lives. The contest is open to participants worldwide. The Wingward runs an exciting poetry competition which accepts submission from September to March every year. Those who are young and looking for this competition, please take note of it. Poems are selected on the basis of creativity, originality, and talent. In 2020, a cumulative sum of 700,000 will be distributed among winners who show their merit. We encourage beginners to participate in this competition. I can give you a little more information on the Wingboard competition. There are three categories, namely main category, regional category, and junior category. So it's open for all the regional languages like Hindi, Bengali, Assamese, Odia, Telugu, Tamil, Marathi, Malayalam, Kannada, Punjabi, and Gujarati. She has also been published by Cornell University, University Pittsburgh, and Symbiosis International University. I'm not getting into the merit of this book. You know this book. The Great Gatsby is a 1925 novel written by American author Scott. Follows a cast of characters living in the fictional towns of West Egg and East Egg on prosperous Long Island in the summer of 1922. Many critics consider this Great Gatsby is one of the greatest novels ever written. Friends, help me in welcoming Kav Ranj from Bahrain. Thank you, Kav.
Welcome.
It's disappeared. Yes, all right. Hi. Thank you, Anil, for that really nice introduction of myself and the book. I'm going to get straight into it. So as readers, as literary enthusiasts and writers, there are two ways in which we read books. Both of them are with a regard for the object itself as sacred. There is ritual in the opening of it, the smell of pressed paper, the anticipation of its contents, the turning of its pages, the travel through its story, and the afterthoughts that haunt us later. Some of us choose to represent that sanctity in keeping our books as clean as possible. To dog-ear one page is a crime. They're straight in the spine and immaculate even after decades, just in case grandchildren would like to go through them. The others, myself included, wear the age of books as a sort of war medal. Our minds stare at the story, filling every page with notes and marks and lines and sketches to furiously devour its contents while expanding upon it with our own life stories, our own histories to mingle with the work of an author that's often long dead. The Great Gatsby is 95 years old today, and it's centrally about something similar, the two ways in which people behave. Yes, it is a tragic love story, something that is so familiar and beloved in literature, but also a tale of caution. Yes, it is significantly about the irreversibility of time, the dangers of trying to recapture the past, and the difficulty of altering someone's future. Yes, there are libraries of commentary on the significance of even the alcohol in this novel. But I would rather read it in terms of its wide scope than in terms of its tiny motifs. Published in 1925 and set in 1922, I think this is a book that should frankly be mandatory quarantine reading. And it's perfect timing because it's nearly a century later that we find ourselves in the unique opportunity to take a moment to look back on the original Roaring Twenties. We get to actually see how our ghosts have lived through turbulent times. Being a student of both English literature and world history, this is something that's really important to me personally, looking through old books as a way to find oneself today. We live in an age that's increasingly flashy, where the attention economy is one of the world's most profitable markets, where your data is being sold to add to the wealth of $1 billion tech company, where young people are getting more and more disillusioned with the way the world works and seek, as they often do, to change it. F. Scott Fitzgerald's world, similarly, is shaped by the sudden boom in the stock market in 1920s America and the material excess that shapes America's legacy even today, although some would say that that is quickly crumbling. The Prohibition era seeks to curb the sale of alcohol, and this only promotes bootlegging and iconic speakeasies in the 20s. Flapper girls emerge as a symbol of sexual freedom. Decadence and jazz music pumping out on every street corner only adds to the majesty of a time with little worry. While their excess seems to be a blessing, we are in the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And as usual, the rich get richer while the poor get poorer. And yet, in these almost polar opposite times, we find ourselves forced to reckon with what is true and what is illusion. During this pandemic, the world has been forced to buckle down to the painful truth of human loneliness, and the meaningful relationships in each of our lives blossom to be seen for what they are. We are disoriented, confused, scared, and marred by loss all around us. But as usual, our community is what makes or breaks us. For Fitzgerald, too, the sudden burst in glamour is very disorienting and quickly reveals greed, deceit, and shallow recklessness. At the heart of this is desire. Tony Tanner, in his introduction to this version of the published book, points out that lights too closely approached may well lose their supernatural luster and revert to unarousing ordinariness. You can only wish on the star that you can't reach. In one excerpt, when a lot of people get together in the best places, things go glimmering. The thing is to have a lot of people at the center of the world, wherever that happens to be. Then things go glimmering. My theory is that when a whole lot of people get together in the best places, things go glimmering all the time. Did you ever see an amusement park? It's a thing like a fair, only much more glittering. Go to one at night and stand a little way off from it in a dark place, under dark trees. You'll see a big wheel made of lights turning in the air, and a long slide shooting boats down into the water. A band playing somewhere, and a smell of peanuts, and everything will twinkle. But it won't remind you of anything, you see. It will all just hang out there in the night like a colored balloon, like a big yellow lantern on a pole. But don't get up close, because if you do, you'll only feel the heat and the sweat and the life. I wonder if this causes any nostalgia or familiarity for those of us based in cities, especially those of us in Dubai. Having been raised there myself, the glitter of this place is spectacular, and yet it caves into a hollowness. As Fitzgerald says, it won't remind you of anything. It will all just hang out there in the night like a colored balloon. Fantastic and yet fading, this novel is the literary version of a firework, leaving you to wander in the dark and search for bits of glitter in the middle of all the smoky residue. There is inevitably a longing to be inside that firework, to become that firework, that explosive jolt of light at the heart of everyone's attention. We all feel this way, and I do believe we can all live our lives being this way as well. For Gatsby, Daisy Buchanan, his main love interest, is the firework that he wants to reach out for and possess, a shiny thing for him to conquer by any which way. And when we speak of material excess in terms of the 20s and America, the West historically tends to view this as negative. For them, money is always rooted in evil. It breeds greed, which breeds distrust. This comes from what spiritual counselors and even psychologists today would call a lack or scarcity mindset. In South Asian history, however, money is usually looked towards as abundance. It is only a positive thing to move us forward in life. The Hindu community pray to the goddess Lakshmi, who wields abundance as her tools, and celebrate Diwali in the hopes of prosperity, which fundamentally includes wealth. And yet, wealth is in forms other than economic, as we have seen, the most timeless of which is love. At the crux of the story, my most favorite meat is the way we love. Daisy Buchanan is a thing to be conquered or wrested away from her husband Tom. Gatsby is a scorned ex-lover with pride that is scorched by the fact that he does not come from inherited wealth and has to become new money wealth. And Nick Carraway, who is our narrator and Daisy Buchanan's cousin, watches the spectacle of a love story unfurl to show dark underbellies of infidelity, lies, as well as the painfully obvious truth of the shallowness of Daisy herself. Nick provides himself and provides the reader with a third-person perspective to take us away from all the glitz, the glamour, and the drama and see everything clearly. Of course, when it comes to Daisy's shallowness, the systems in place, the economic systems, the social systems, do not allow her to be as preciously desired if she was not so hollow. No one valued women for their intelligence at the time, and Daisy reveals that she is aware of this when she dwells on her newborn daughter's face. She says in the book, and this is one of the most iconic lines, I hope she'll be a fool. That's the best thing a girl can be in this world, a beautiful little fool. Gatsby's yearning desire to win Daisy over in his careful calculations to assume power and wealth, which include his parties, his grand castle of a house, the spectacular cars, and the life he flaunts, is in direct opposition to the lifestyle of the old money aristocracy that Tom and Daisy belong to. This breaks his heart over and over and over again. And yet he cannot find it in his heart to let her go for the sake of the American dream, which is why this novel presents itself as the great American novel. It shapes American culture the way we see it today and the way it emerged back in the 20s. Gatsby can't let Daisy go for the sake of this American dream, to be able to make it out of nowhere and turn into a millionaire, or his version of it anyway. And this leads to a series of events that are doomed to be the last pages of the novel. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but at the heart of it, Nick Carraway writes, our protagonist and our narrator writes, they were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness or whatever it was that kept them together and let other people clean up the mess that they had made. And I can't help but think of the timelessness of that quote, of carefulness and carelessness. In today's world, which one will you be? Which one will I be? What does it mean to be in love and yet be careless for people around us? What does it mean to acquire instead of to care for? What does it mean to care in a world that does not value it? And will we have the strength to change that as individuals? Thank you. I wish you a happy read, and the resilience to revolt with care, with love, and with tenderness.
Thank you so much, Kavya. Thank you. It was an amazing session and amazing thought. Great presentation. I welcome Ejiro to throw some insight on this. Ejiro, you are here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Okay. I don't know. Thanks. Yeah. The presentation was good. And yeah, the points as well. I wasn't hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Cav, is that correct?
Yes, that's it. Calm.
Yes, Cav. All right. That was a great presentation of the story. And like you said, the line that the one of the lines that you said was one of the poignant lines in the book was the only thing a girl can be is, a fool, right? But could you what do you think about that in that aspect? Like, how does that work?
So in that time, we're just seeing, the ultimate importance of anyone in the world is their wealth and their beauty and their superficial shininess, if you will. And that extends to men in terms of their economic wealth, and that extends to women in terms of their beauty, their sexuality, their ability to be contained and to be presented as part of a certain rich elite lifestyle. And this is something that Daisy in the book continues to show, right? Throughout the novel, she is very frivolous, and even our narrator mentions that he gets quite annoyed with her character and how the only thing that she seems to do is flick towards the most glittering thing in front of her. But this is something that she is forced to do because of how she is worthless if she isn't this beautiful, shiny thing that everybody wants to desire. The fact that she's in the middle of this love triangle in the story itself elevates her to a position of great social importance. And at the time, when we look at 1920s America, you see everyone is coming out of the disillusionment of the Great War, the First World War. And we suddenly have all this wealth, and there's no real meaning of life, right? There's no, after experiencing such loss, such trauma, such military struggle, such nationalistic struggle, the only meaning of life is to party and to have fun if you can afford it. And when you do, then nothing else matters. So women, and interestingly, flapper girls come out as this sort of almost an initial feminist representation of women in America, because they are daring, they are boldly sexual, they are not simply objects, but at least more shiny ones now, at least more uh, diamondistic and a little bit more lustrous. And there's not independence really, but there is a little bit of a more daring value to the image of a woman, right? Which is why you call it the roaring 20s. There's a lot of rage and pomp and decor. And this then does translate to Daisy's version of being shallow, because that's the only thing she would be valued for. As an intelligent woman, you will be downtrodden. As someone who attempts to work or even explore the borders of femininity at the time and independence at the time and feminism at the time, you will be punished. And for her, that means losing her source of income, which is her husband. So this is the great conflict between Daisy, Gatsby, and Tom in the novel.
Thank you, Ejiro, and thank you, Kav. Thank you so much. Before we move on to our second speaker, this is our whole core team who is behind this Empowerment Talk English Bookery Show. These are our pillars, Faisal Ibrahim and Anil Thomas, and our coordinators and hosted by Said Harris sir, Niaz, Sanish, Sarita, Santosh, Renira, Jayasree, Vamsi, Vinisha. These are the whole team who is behind this Empowerment Talk English Club. Kudos team, you have done an amazing job. Now, let's move on to our second speaker. For introduction of our second speaker, I would welcome Anil Thomas once again. Over to you, Anil sir.
Thank you, Kav, for an amazing book review. Nostalgia serves as a coping mechanism, if I understand correctly, and helps people to feel better about themselves. Thank you for that wonderful book review. Thank you, EJ, for coming back to our platform. Those who don't know EJ was one of our speakers in the previous session. Second speaker for today is Alifia Sura. Now, what can I say about Alifia? Alifia is an integral part of Empowerment Group. She's the coordinator of Mastermind Group, leader of Business Network Group, founder and CSO of Rooftop Sales, strategy coach, and 10x CEOs, and above all, awarded by former President of India, K.R. Narayanan, a prestigious title of Girl Guide of India. What a prestigious award is it? Passionate about driving women leadership. Personally, many of us are involved with Alifia in few bodies where he's assuming leadership roles. Let me introduce Power Packed Alifia Zura. She's going to unfold the book, The 4-Hour Work Week, authored by Timothy Ferris. Welcome, Alifia.
Thank you, Anil, for that beautiful, awesome introduction. I really appreciate that. And 4-Hour Work Week is honestly a book that literally changed my life. And this book, today, with your permission, I really want to challenge anything and everything you've ever known or believed. This book actually challenges the norms of working, of the way we live and the way we work and the assumptions that we actually, all of us, have about it. This book is going to actually challenge the possibilities of going beyond the 9 to 5 grind, how to actually escape from the office cubicles and instead consider working towards your dreams. I want to introduce you to the new rich and hopefully open your minds to the benefits of shifting your focus in life away from the value of money to actually looking towards the value of time. Are you all ready? So if you're ready, let's play along and type in the chat if you are. So for the next 20 minutes, let's open our minds and see what the new rich is like. Can we say you're ready in the chat? So let's engage and interact because I tend to get bored. But this book has a lot to learn and share. So if we all engage, we'll have a lot of good stuff to take away with us. Okay, where's my chat? Okay. Can you all see my screen already?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see Liji saying yes. I see Gautam Karthik saying yes. Melroy saying yes. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now in the chat, just take a minute and I invite you to type out your real life dream. If you had a choice to not necessarily do what you're currently doing, if you don't want to do it, of course. If you love doing what you're doing, great, you're already living your dream, right? But if you didn't have to do what you're doing, type in the chat, what is your real dream? If money, income, or responsibilities was not actually a barrier, what is it that you would choose to do in your life before you die? Let's have some answers in the chat. World travel, yeah, Vanisha. So if you had to do something really different right now, entertain with humor, awesome. Venkat, just chill and relax. That's awesome. So take another step because the depth of this book will actually come when you define your worst nightmare. So imagine relaxing, Roy. Gaurav wants to contribute to a better world, financial freedom, awesome. So what would happen if you stop everything that you're doing right now, drop everything and just start working towards your dream? What's going to be affected in your life? What's going to be your worst nightmare? Define if you can be open to type, like what's going to fall apart if you stop everything you're doing, but just go live your dream. A few of you, if you're open, can type in the chat, but otherwise tell yourself, write down a little bit of a point somewhere so that you know exactly how bad the world would be if, like, what happened, like kids, you don't have food to eat, or are you just working for, anyone wants to type anything in the chat so that we can relate with you? Stay without food for many days, yeah. Still thinking. Some people are not affected with something, with dropping everything. Saving for the kids, yes, of course, the kids' future could get affected, right? So what to do? So less is more is the theme of this book. And the entire idea of the new rich, this is actually the new rich, is not about, it's about how many W's do you control in your life. So money is actually multiplied in practical sense with this concept. What do you do? When do you do? Whom do you do with? The more W's that you have control in your life, that's what is the real power for the new rich. And how do you go about achieving that? Now, at the end of this session, it's a part of the book. If there is time, I'm going to do a special bonus about how do you actually 2 times or 3 times your reading speed, because it's an e-bookery show. And this is actually something that Timothy Ferris has invented. How do you read much faster, 3 times your speed in 10 minutes or less without losing any concentration? So if you guys are there around till the end of the workshop, let me quickly share this to you for you in the end. Cool? Excited? Because life is short, let's read fast. The Timothy Ferris book of 4-hour work week is all defined around these 4 things. It's called DEAL. D is for definition, E is for elimination, A is for automation, and L is for liberation. There's a small tweak in this one, which he normally says. So if you're a business owner or you're a freelance, then it goes like in this template of definition, elimination, automation, and liberation. But if you are an employee, then the L comes before A. So you liberate yourself and then you get into automation. And how each, I'll just share a little bit of each of them so that you get the gist of this book, and the takeaways from it is extremely powerful. So definition is basically define what you want. That's what we try to do right now, where you define your dreams. And that's the first step. If you don't know what you're missing out, there is no start to the entire game. So first thing that he really urges you, and he's got a whole lot of exercises in the book, and it's a must read for each and every person in the world, I say. So definition is about defining your rules. Now, we all have heard of the 80-20 principle, right? Type in the chat if you have. Say yes in the chat if you've heard of the 80-20 principle. Of course, right? So what does 80-20 say? That you're going to be spending 80% of your time to do only 20% of the work. And 80% of your work actually gets done with just 20% of the time. So the question is, let me challenge you one more time. So today we're going to challenge you a lot of times. So what Timothy Ferris in his book says, can you let go of that 20% of the result? Why spend 80% of your time to do 20%? So spending a lot of time doing unimportant things does not make it important. Can you let go of it and not do it at all? Can you eliminate it completely and free up 80% of your time? What is more important, time or result? So if it's taking 80%, let it go. How bad can it be? So what do you do then with the 80% that you save? You live your dream. It gets us to the next slide, which talks about elimination. So that's what everything is about. Why waste 80% of your time, effort, energy to just get 20% of the result? Let it go. Can you eliminate? Now, everybody talks about doing the to-do list, right? And I think 5 a.m. Club goes big on to-do list. There are apps like Rescue Time about how can you, it talks about creating your tomorrow's list today. But one thing that he challenges you, and he does completely differently than everybody else, is make your to-do list not bigger than a post-it size, than the size of a post-it. It should not be longer than the size of the post-it. Most important thing is, can you have 1 or 2 or 3 things that if you just do that one thing, it's worth everything for you? Can you just have like 2 or 3 things in your post-it, which is like a game changer for you? And that's what the new rich is all about. But even better than that is create a not to do list. Because when you actually become more conscious of your time, you will notice that 80% of your time is going away in a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to do. And it's all about awareness, and it's all about understanding what is it that you want to do that can save that 80% of the time. And what are you going to do with that 80% of the time? Let's type in the chat. When you save that 80% of the time now, what are you going to do? Live your dreams, right? Say, I'm going to live my dreams. Write it in the chat that I'm going to live my dreams. After the Pareto principle, Tim Ferriss talks about a very unique thing, which is a Parkinson's law. So have you ever had a deadline where you could finish something that you would normally take 5 days in 3 hours just because you wanted to go for a holiday? Type in the chat a yes if you've ever managed to do that. How many of you have actually managed to finish a 5-day task in 3 hours just because you had to go somewhere? And that's exactly what he talks about. He talks about giving shorter deadlines and doing smaller tasks in a shorter amount of time, because unless you start giving yourself deadlines, so if you have 5 days to finish a project, you will take 5 days because you're going to fill in the entire time. So can I challenge you again? Can you force yourself to finish your day at 4 o'clock? And not go on and finish all your work off your week by Wednesday. So your Thursday is just an extra day that you have. You can go to work if you have to, but go around, have coffee, network, friends, whatever. But try and finish your work in a much shorter time. So don't let work sit on you. Pareto principle falls in the 5 a.m. plan. Yes, of course, that's amazing. And then now let's try and put the Parkinson's law as well in the 5, so put smaller deadlines, and let's have a not to-do list, which is just going to kill your day away, and let go of the 80% of time-consuming task, which is only giving out 20% of the result. Let's just let it go, right? So it's about elimination. So first of all, you define your dream, then you come to elimination. How many times do we check WhatsApp and emails in a day? He said slotted only twice a day, 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Can we do that just twice a day? Because it's about grouping common tasks together. And by the way, the book has got so many ideas, and it's got so many links, and it's got so many answers, and it's got so many templates about exactly what to tell people that you're not going to take emails every now and then. So he's got even written templates that you can just copy and use all the time. Never have a meeting without a clear agenda. No chit chat anymore. So all these things are just a way to save your time. Because even if someone says, let's have a meeting, tell them to point down 3 things on the agenda. And that's going to make your time a lot more valuable. And that's how you start working 4 hours in a week instead of working 56 or whatever hours that we all work. How many of our procrastinators? Raise your hand if you're a procrastinator, or say yes in the chat if you're a procrastinator. Nobody's typing? Okay, that's how procrastination works, right? If you're still thinking, take your time. That's exactly how it works. Okay. So someday is a disease that will take you to the, that will take you to the dream, take your dreams to the grave with you. So it's all about being conscious. And if you think you want to live your dreams, don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for retirement. That's the old rich. That's our parents. But generations today want to live it now. Don't wait for the money to collect to enjoy it. Do it today. So that brings us to, so we've done the definition about exactly what we want. We've got elimination about what we're going to remove. What next? So again, if you're an employee, you're going to do the liberation step first. But if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, then you're going to do automation right away. So automation comes for business owners. How do you automate your income? So are you going to hire people, don't outsource everything. So even if you're an employee, you want to start with, he's got a whole, the automation is all about business ideas, like what you can do, what products you can get, the entire game plan, the entire go-to-market strategy. How do you do what you do? uh, how can you get your product, where can you buy them from, how do you put them online, how do you price it, how do you pick your market. And he's got like links and links and links of ideas about where you can get a book if you wanted to get into services, if you want to get into, so even with a job there can be something that you do on the back of everything which does not need time. So it's all about getting things done without using any of your time. And how do you, it's all systems, it's all dependent on system. But definitely one thing he says is do not hire, get everything outsourced, because when you hire you get limited with limited skills. But when you outsource, and don't outsource to one single freelancer, outsource rather to a firm, outsource to a virtual assistant firm, because then if one person, if you outsource to a single person who is a freelancer, you're going to be dependent on him not getting sick, him not taking a holiday, him not taking overburden. But if you actually outsource to a virtual assistant firm, you always have backup. And that gives you a chance to scale your business, because guess what? Your whole thing is going to run on systems. Today you're going to do 10 units, tomorrow you're going to do 100 units, but eventually you want to do 10,000 units, right? And that can only work when you have a system in place. And so work with virtual assistant firms, and you've got to go try. And that's the way that's one of the few tips that I'm giving you guys today. But that's the way he suggests, and it's a mind-opening book. The factory of the future is going to be only 2 employees, a man and a dog. I mean, that's the limit he goes to, right? The man's only job will be there to feed the dog. And the dog's only job is going to be to keep the man away from touching the equipment. Because guess what? The system's going to run the entire company. So that's all you got to do, because you got to do nothing and work happens. It's all about the remote control CEO. Which brings us to liberation. But by the way, automation is like it's about 150 pages, and it's filled with ideas, it's filled with links. So do not miss this book. And liberation is about how do you free up your location. You should not be stuck to a single location at all. And even when you're an employee, he has so many ideas where you can either fire your boss or do certain things. And he's got templates for everything, how you can start working remotely, how you can prove your worth and work more productively being out of the office, and use the extra time to do a whole lot of things. So at least, even if I see a lot of teenagers and youngsters in this room, so this is a book you don't want to miss. So about liberation, a very small snippet that I've taken is, by working faithfully 8 hours a day, you may eventually get to become a boss and work 12 hours a day. So it's all about the disappearing act. How do you escape the office so that you can do a lot more? Can you travel 1 week a month? Or because traveling can sometimes teach you a lot more than you can ever imagine. Which brings us to the last part of the day. And how many people are excited to know how to 3x your reading speed? Type a chat. Say yes in the chat if you want to know. Yay, Salim says yes. He wants to know how to 10x your speed, or 2x, double your speed. So 2x is like double your speed, and 3x is like 3 times your speed. So I'm going to now show you. Let me stop this video so that you can see the. Yeah, stop sharing. Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's the book, The 4-Hour Work Week, right? It's about, what is it, 400 pages? 393 with the index. Yeah, 380 pages with the index. That's typically what the book is, but it's a Bible. Okay. So how do you now double your speed, right? So the first thing that you need to understand is, now I'm pointing at my nose right now. Can you see the finger? Type yes if you do. Do you see this finger? Okay, so that's how your vision works, because you don't look here, you look all over. So it's a very peripheral vision. So what it tells you is, from your normal book, you lose 1 inch on the left and 1 inch on the right. You don't need to read up to the last So about 1 or 2 words, 1 word on the left and the 1 word on the right, you miss it. You don't read it at all. And you will not lose any comprehension. So when you're reading, you just start from 1 inch away and 1 inch away and just read the center. And it assures you, you will increase your speed by say 10% or 20%, and you will not lose any comprehension because your eye pretty much sees it anyway. That's step 1. So it's 3 steps, okay? Step 2 is you need, what do you call it? A pacer. So again, your eye, how it works is it goes all over the place. Now you need to understand an average person reads at about 180, 200, 150 to 250 words per minute. But your brain, it thinks at 650 words per minute. And you speak at, we know some of us are Toastmasters, right? So we know we speak at 100 words per minute on an average. So that's the reason when you're at workshops, that your mind wanders when your speaker is still speaking, because he's speaking at the rate of 100 words per minute, but your mind is already at 650 words per minute. And that same thing happens when you're reading, because when you're reading on an average 250 words per minute, but your mind is already thinking at the speed of 650, correct? So what you do is you use your finger or a pencil or anything, and you use it as a pacer below the line that you're reading. So you read like this. What happens is it allows your focus to happen around your finger, and it doesn't let your eye wander all around the place. It's because your eye keeps wandering all around your place that your speed slows down. So I know it sounds like kindergarten, you put your A, B, C and all that, but that's exactly the best technique to, this will double almost, only these 2 things if you do, it will double your speed for sure. Just put your finger around and don't read the last. But the third tip is, you just go faster. You move your finger like, you may not understand it. This will allow you to lose a little bit of comprehension. But let me give you an example. For example, when you're driving, and all of us normally come from whichever country, maybe you've driven always at 50 kilometers per hour speed. And then suddenly you sometimes get on a highway on, say, Sheikh Zayed Road or Al Khail Road or Emirates Road or something, and suddenly the average road speed is 120 there. Or you have to go at 100 at least, if not 100, at least 80 or something. And suddenly from a 50 average that you've ever done, you suddenly start driving at 100 kilometers per hour speed. And you're totally uncomfortable, right? But you still do it. And then if you do it a couple of times, guess what? Next time you're on a 50 speed road, you're driving at 80 and it still feels like you're slow, correct? So it's just about getting the new habits, right? So when you just start moving your finger a little faster, and this one, you will lose the comprehension by 10% or something. But if you're losing too much, then just, do this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes every day. But just do this like, move your finger faster, and you will lose a little comprehension, but this will automatically habituate your eyelids to move faster and follow the finger. And you will eventually notice that now you're reading 3 times faster then. But from the first and the second step, you will definitely read 2 times faster. So that's easy peasy. And of course, you need to measure. So unless you measure how much you read, like say 50 pages or 20 pages, how much you read, measure it. Until you measure it, you won't know if you're growing or not. So that's a small tip on how to read faster. And that gets me to the end of my workshop. Thank you for listening. I hope it added value.
Hi, thank you so much, Alfia. It was just an eye opener. A lot of hacks, a lot of techniques which all of us have to follow for making our life a little more productive. We know that we are always confined to the comfort zone. We don't want any changes. We don't want anything to be changed in our routine. We'll get really distracted with the routine changes. But as you said, the deal, definition, elimination, automation, and liberation. Exactly. It was awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. I invite Roy Tharagan to throw some insight on this. Roy?
Thank you. Alifia, that's a great job to summarize the whole book of 400 pages. I mean, I have here a different colored one, the same book,
yeah.
and it has few extra pages, I must say. So I got it about a month back. I haven't touched it yet. So I definitely need to practice your 3X technique to really read it now. So you have motivated me to read this book. Yeah, and I think you have made me more curious now to read the book. I must say that, all of us need, I mean, do less and earn more, or have more extra time in our life. I mean, and especially, I mean, when you were asking me if I completed a 5-day work in 3 days, I have, and I think I'm now doing more of it. Why? Because, why, I'll tell you. I mean, again, I think to create more time to spend on social media. So I think I'm doing, so, you spend more time on social media, and then you're left with less time to finish your assignment, and you somehow try to finish it. I think, yeah, these days it's become very difficult to get away the, uh, from the social media. And I think all of us are becoming much more effective, in the sense that you're doing less to work, but basically not spending that time to relax, or using it meaningfully. Yeah, I think so. Being effective and efficient, it definitely will. I think we are getting there, but all we need to do is, how do we control our